Can you hear me now? Is that fixed it? At least OBS is showing that there's audio now. So I'll just be talking to myself for fucking 10 minutes. That's hilarious. Um, okay, well, gotta love those technical difficulties. I wonder why my audio stopped working. Like I've literally done nothing. Like the audio was working yesterday. I've just stopped and started the stream again. Like the audio apparently just given up. Okay. So I guess I'll just start again then, because I was going to make something. So we'll jump back and we'll do audio. So the game jam finished. I mean, I managed to start the stream on time, apparently with no audio, so that's always fun. We have 4 submissions, one by me. I submitted about an hour before the jam finished, and the other submissions were in. So we've got Rusty Music, which I think was this one, and that's seems to be like a dynamic audio generator, so you can say like increase the level of bass or something based on the player's health. Make the music more dramatic with the lower their health is, or when they're in combat, that kind of thing. So it allows you to dynamically generate music by adding like drums and bass and all that. So this is going to be like really cool for some atmospheric games, and I guess just to see what people come up with in like a 48-hour game jam. One big thing to note was I suggested I'm going to change the game jam to be across 72 hours and sort of like pick 48 to allow for time zone differences and stuff, so people don't have to stay up super late or wake up super early to get the full 48 hours. Instead, it's going to be like there's going to be 3 days and you just do 48 hours. Mostly because I don't think there's going to be that much competition, that a 24-hour boost, if someone wants to cheat, is not going to make that much of a difference. It's not like someone couldn't have already started writing the game anyway. Like the theme is literally you just have to use one of these plugins. So it's not really that important to me. So I feel like giving people the extra 24 hours is going to improve the quality of people's experience. Anyway, so next was the Charred Path. So Charred Path is like a not a pathfinding plugin that I originally thought it was, but instead like a path tracking plugin. So like instead it calculates where you've been as opposed to like working out how to get somewhere. So they suggest using it for things like working out like where secrets are and stuff like that. Is if you've hidden a secret, you can then use this to see if people are actually finding the secret and like what path people are taking through the level to find secrets and stuff like that, or like what sections of a level people aren't exploring at all. One of the other suggestions was you can use it to determine like how someone got to a particular point. So, like I guess in a cutscene, you could look at the path the player took and then dynamically decide like whether like a character may reference events that the player may or may not have seen, and you can know what they've seen based on like how they got there. So if they go through the left door, you may reference they went to the left door, or through the right door, you reference they went through the right door. Or if they've gone through both doors, you can reference that they're indecisive and they must have gone back at some point to go through both doors. What else did I talk about? One of my suggestions that why my audio wasn't working was that you could have the same point on the map marked in multiple places, so that if the player somehow gets somewhere where they would be able to see an event, but not necessarily in the same way, so like maybe they can see it happen through a window or be in the room when it's happening, they can both trigger the same thing, so that like NPCs in that can reference the same event, but the player can view it in multiple different ways, rather than just having triggers that it's like, oh, trigger a cutscene. It's like, oh no, this is like the list of places and things you've seen, and therefore these are the things you can interact with. It also tells you like the order that they would have seen them. Like it talks about this person's visited just B, and this person visited C, then they visited D, and then they visited C again. And so this would allow you to like know the order that people saw events, and therefore change how things happen based on a particular interaction that may have changed because they went and did something first. Like perhaps something happens in D that changes C. So if you see C first, it's different than if you see D then CC, and all these sorts of things, which I don't know if it'll work in a 48-hour game jam, because these kinds of plugins feel like they're much more for longer scope, like when you've got time to really build like a really in-depth system around the idea of tracking where the player has been. But I think this plugin's great, and they've also talking about like they've got plans to expand. Like it's not just for the jam and it's done. So they've going to add so 3D paths, and like statistic driven analysis so that you can like change how your game interacts and stuff like that. Serialization and stuff so you can like what do they suggest? Like using it something for a persistent game state. So like I guess that would be like serializing where the player's been. I guess like the side quests and stuff like that is you may be like, here's the main quest, and then if you do side quests, because you have to visit certain locations, that would trigger the side quest. The main quest may change. So I'm not entirely sure how you could use it, but like this does seem like a really useful tool for like if you were building something like this. I think they said specifically when they made it, they had in mind 2D platformers and Metrovanias. And I mean, a Metrovania makes a lot of sense in that like abilities and stuff like that may be unlocked a specific way, and then you can work out if a player has got to a specific spot, not necessarily by looking if they've got the ability, because there may be like two abilities that can be combined to get somewhere that a singular ability may get them. So instead of like gating things off directly, you could like have like sort of indirect things of like if you ever get past this point. But yeah, it's like what a cool plugin to have been made in a week. And then finally we have the Yachts, which is a an AI. I think I discussed it in yesterday's stream, and the idea of this is that it will turn it on, and I guess so. The AI allows you to sort of give weights to a particular behavior, and then the behavior with the greatest weight gets control. So in this particular situation, the enemy is in idle unless the player is with a certain range, and then they become chase unless they get too close to the player, and then they start circling. So with a like melee enemy, you would want them to chase until they hit the player, and then they start melee attacking. But a ranged enemy, you may want them to chase until they get to a certain range, and then start attacking and like and sort of keeping their distance. So like all these things can be influenced by providing the AI with like its weight. Another idea I could see with this would be like animals in a world. You could give them a food and water meter, and then like they like have behavior like searching for water, searching for food, and wandering. And so if their water is too low, they'll search for water. If their food's too low, they'll search for food, and otherwise they'll just be wandering around. And the idea being that you could much more like dynamically have like the character do things, because if they're looking for food and suddenly their water gets too low, they'll start looking for water. Like you don't have to worry about programming in like when they change state or like conditions to override. Like they're not just going to do one action and then be stuck in that until they're done. Like I was watching someone, they did like a survival game where they needed like this kind of AI. Was like a simulation game. I mean, not a survival game. And the issue they were having is that like their AI would basically be like, this is what I'm doing, and it would not do anything else until it had done that, or it would be like, hey, I need to drink, and would go for water, and then be like, oh, I need to eat instead. So they were talking about how like it took them a long time to get the AI to work to the point that the AI just didn't change its mind all the time, which is what this would allow you to do, is build a more robust system of what the player is going to do. Because in theory, the most important thing, like whatever the AI weight has been the most important, isn't likely to change every frame if there's no substantial change to what the AI is up to. So again, this I see as being the plugin that most people are going to use for the Game Jam, just because it seems like the most flexible without being any kind of restrictive. Like my camera is probably going to result in not being used by many people because it's more likely that you implement your own camera and use whatever your camera does. Like it's more likely you're not going to want my specific camera. Whereas this AI seems flexible enough that like if you ever need any AI, you can just make it do what you want. So I've only got like another 45 minutes to stream, so I was gonna just make something in like the 45 minutes. So that's what I was working on before you guys told me that the audio wasn't working. So we're gonna make just like a procedural map generator that just generates like an infinite world and do that. Just because I feel like it might be fun just to set that up and have it, I guess, working for the rest of the stream. I don't know, because I didn't really plan much out, because I was kind of hoping there'd be more than 3 plugins when I announced this stream, and even then I only planned to stream for an hour, and yeah, so you very quickly run out of things when there's only like 4. So while we're gonna have a height map, and this is gonna be like a, I guess you don't want a height map. Got a lot of hype maps. I'm gonna have. I have a hash map that's gonna say we need a struct chunk. ID. Oh yeah. Yours is yours the AI one, I'm guessing. Yeah. So if you want, you can jump on the Discord. And you can jump in the streaming room if you want to come talk about your plugin, like what you went through to develop it. I was gonna reach out before the stream, but I kind of just got. It is more than 0. Yeah, that's I guess it's definitely is. Yeah, I was so glad like when I saw you posting in the Discord like that you were doing this. I was like, at least it's not going to be nobody. And then I got home this afternoon from work and it was free, and I was like, oh, that's nice. Like there will be something to talk about. So there was an example. Your example can run without like needing. I think like I don't need to compile it, do I? Like I can go to the Discord, and if I go to the jam, like I think you posted a link to like a working example. I just don't know if it's up to date. Like this may be the old one. Oh no, yeah, this is the new one. I mean, we're going to look at the code as well for the example, so we'll just open that up. So the example is it this example or is it this example? That's the question. Debug text. Okay, it's probably this example. So let's see. Well, like what controls? So we got an enemy and a player. When we set up, we spawn the enemy. We'll probably pop the chat back open so I can see before. Alright, that's all good. So to be at least 2 or better for the current activity in order to replace it. Okay. Okay, so like that's neat because I guess that's exactly what I was talking about. Where it's like if it's looking for water and then suddenly it decides that actually food's more important and it changes its mind. It's like it has to have at least a priority of like 2. It has to be at least 2 points better before it'll change its mind, which is a neat way of, I guess, like stopping it. See, like you can see this, it's circling and then suddenly it's switching back to chase, I guess, for like just a fraction of a second. And I'm not moving, like it's just suddenly like it's flicking and changing its mind. That's pretty cool. I do like it. So let's see what else. So I'm interested to see how it changes its mind. So this is this sprite bundle, and then it's just example debug text. So controlling the player is just arrow keys, which is fun. Yeah, and then we just move the transform. So it's just all very basic. So you got the macro working, which is pretty impressive. Like I'm not one for macros. Like I've tried macros in the past. I can never work them out. So you like define a key and then an input. Huh. All right. So and then so there's a key input and a state. Have the target entity as a key field name means that there were if there were multiple targets, then the suggestion to choose each of them would be considered a different suggestion. This is mainly implemented here because of the keep chasing current target gets the bonus, so the AI won't freak. Okay, that's a neat, like, so it won't like flip flop around chasing multiple players. So in some cases, I feel like that would be preferred. But again, you could just set the bound to 0. Like it'll then chase whichever player is the nearest. So basically, it'll keep chasing the same player unless another player gets close enough that it's better to chase that player than to stay on target. Like it's like a inertia. Like the enemy wants to keep doing what the enemy is doing unless something even better. Like it has to be a certain threshold better. So that's, and so the key in the macro represents something that's like, yeah, identifies it. So like you can have multiple entities that it may be trying to pick between, and they're all considered separate chase like objects, I guess, or decisions. Like it's got their own weight based on which entity, which interesting enough means you could also therefore make it like very easily implement something like taunt or something like that, where it's like you have an entity that's like based on how close they are, it wants to chase this person, but then also because this person's taunting, even though they're further away, they still get picked, because you can say this entity has given you like a priority 10 to chase, which would then also, I guess, allow you to override certain distances. Like if it's not going to chase you because you're too far away, and then you taunt, it'll chase you from further away. They're like, I think there's some really cool things you could do with this without like really needing to implement any of your own thing. Like it's literally just passing numbers to the AI, which is pretty cool. So technically, the enemy following player system could be could have you read this value from the global transform of the target, since it has entity. Okay. But this makes making this an input field exempts the system from having to add a second query. Okay, so I'm guessing this means that like when we provide like this input here, we also can specify this as an input, and therefore like you're saying, like it cuts down on having to query for this, because we just basically save it inside the thing when we generate a chase. That's interesting. So then the circle, which again takes an entity as a key and the input vector, and the state fields can be used like this. The field value is randomized each frame, okay, but only in the frame where the suggestion gets chosen, because it becomes a state and gets frozen until the different suggested replaces the okay. This enables that each time an entity states circling a target, it chooses a random direction to circle. Huh. Okay, so it's buffering. That's good. So states like things that aren't necessarily set by the game. So, or by like the delver directly. So you're basically saying like pick a random direction, or like when this decision is picked, these values are sort of locked in, whereas the input can still change. The state's sort of locked once the decision is made until the new decision is picked, which again is apparently YouTube's not streaming enough stuff to continue a smooth stream. So again, like, there's another reason for this value of like the consistency, is that like the state may update by getting given a different thing. So the enemy idle system is querying for that, and it says formula is query. So it's suggesting with a strength of 5 to be an enemy behavior idle. Okay, and then we enemy detect player, which again takes the AI and the global transform, and then it gets all the players with their global transforms, and then we say player enemy transform. Okay, enemy player transform is player query iterate. Okay, so then we get the player's translation. Okay, and then vect player position minus enemy to truncate. So vector player, this one is that. So that's like the distance or offset to the player, I think. So then we advise and we suggest. The score will get lower the further the enemy is from the player. If it gets too far, the score will go below the 5, which is the idle. And yes, and the idle will kick in. Of course, the consistency bonus is also applied. So basically, it needs to get below 3 if it's already chasing a player, and it needs to get above 7 to start chasing the player. Is, I guess, what the consistency is. So it's sort of double the consistency is the range that like things need to change by, because it's like it won't disable until it's the consistency below, and it won't enable until it's consistency above. So the consistency is doubled for the actual swing that something needs to move. Obviously, in a two-state system, because something else may kick in earlier or take over and then swap back. So I'm also assuming it's if the idle, say for example, like the longer it was chasing the player, the stronger the idle became, would also make a very interesting reaction. So vector player length, yeah. So if the player was right on top of it, it'd be 12, and then minus. Okay, and then we say chase. Okay. So enemy and distance of circling. So it again takes the same thing in, and then we get a local RNG. Okay. Enemy positioned. So it does the same thing. Okay, we enemy truncate. And then we say if the length is less than 4, then suggest with a power of 100. So no matter what, you're going to be orbiting if you're within. Give it a high score because we always filter for it. Yep, okay. If we are within a range, no other suggestion should beat it. I guess in the example it makes sense. Like there are certain situations where you necessarily wouldn't want the circling to outrank everything, because it kind of means that the player could, start messing with the AI. So like, for example, if the AI needed food or rest or something, you wouldn't want circling to outrank it. But like retreating would always want to be ranked higher than anything else, because you want them to run away even if like they're super hungry. They don't want them to stop and start eating if they're being chased. Yep, so there's random like a bull. Enemy is doing nothing, nothing really to do here. Okay, so you actually like apply a component, so we're just querying for enemies with this behavior. Okay. One limitation I see with this is that it is possible for an enemy to be idle and being chased, like idle and chase, like if they somehow did conflicting things. But I guess that's the point of having the AI control. That is that you don't have to worry about like invalid state, I guess is what it's called, when you have, it's possible to be idle and chased and circling. Like if someone else, like a different plugin was adding these, or the user themselves was inserting it. Did that break the plugin, I wonder? Or is like if you have an enemy that's idle, can you like for a cutscene enable chase and have the cutscene like automatically generated by inserting the behaviors at the right times and overriding the AI entirely? Or would it break the AI because if it's chase, it'll never remove it because it didn't add it, kind of thing? I'm not sure. I'd have to look through the code to work all that out. Clippy allow complex type. So in the enemy circling the player, I'm actually curious how this works, because so if let some direction circle that try normalize, else continue. Okay. That's interesting. That direction if circle go counterclockwise. Direction dot previous, else direction dot negative direction previous. And then we translate, and then we do the delta second direction dot extend with a 0. Try normalize. I actually have no idea how this is making you circle the player. I'm assuming prep is... Oh, it's because prep would be perpendicular. That's what prep is the perpendicular angle. I was going like, I don't know how that's making you move in a circle, but it's because you're moving perpendicular to the direction. So basically saying point at the player, and if you can point a vector at the player, move perpendicular, which is, to the side. Then that's how you're orbiting in a circle, is every frame you're moving perpendicular to the player, which is probably why occasionally it stops chasing the player, is because occasionally it can end up outside of 4 because it's orbiting at exactly 4. See, like, so as long as I don't move it further than 4 away from it, it'll always just circle me. And I guess if there's like a frame lag, it can end up skipping more than 4 because the perpendicular step will end up being slightly further than and it'll enable chase and zoom in. Interesting. And then update enemy debug text, and it's just pasting right if some. Huh. Okay. Is right if some just like a function I've just never seen in Rust, or is this something you've implemented? I'm going to go into debug text and guess that it's in here. No? It's in mod. No? Okay. Must be just something I don't know about. Right if some. It's a function. Oh, no, there it is. Function right if some. So sync is a string, and then a value, option that implements debug, and then if that's some, right back. Huh. Okay, that's cool. That's a pretty neat example. I don't like this one has an example as well, I believe, but I don't think it's like it's an example you have to download and run. Like it doesn't have the web example like yours. I mean, it's definitely interesting. I'm gonna go back to building this map gen thing just for like again like the we'll go back to because I want to like make something and then like maybe we can implement the AI on top and have like the AI move through the map. So we're gonna hash map and then we need chunk ID to derive. I guess we can have debug eq park equan hash, and then we can say yeah, let's have a chunk ID and chunk data. Okay, and then we say chunk data and so height map, which is going to be an array of F32s with length chunk size times chunk size. So the noise map is going to be noise not open simplex, it's F something, isn't it? FBM. And then T, which is going to be noise. Now open simplex. There we go. Yep. This is apparently EBU size. As U size. Okay. So we're going to import chunk data. I'm going to be like FM height, which is just going to take in an self, I guess, and a X, which is going to be an I32, and a Y, which is going to be an I32, and it's going to return a F32. Then we just say self dot height map, and we just say X, I guess Y times chunk size plus X as U size. Okay. Return something. Okay, so when we go spawn map, we generate the noise. Okay, so I guess we want this to be a resource. Derive resource. Then we want to implement from world for world map. from world, and then it's just going to be a world map. And we're just going to say height map is just going to be default, and noise object is going to be noise fb new with a seed rand. Actually, we'll just give it a seed of 0, because then we can test everything with like the same map every time. So we don't need, there we go. Alright, so then we can come up here, we can be like app.init resource world map. Okay. So then when we say spawn the world, spawn map, we can say commands mute assets materials. So we would want mute map, which is going to be res mute like so. And so we still use the noise function, but instead we're going to say I guess let chunk equal map dot get gen, and then we're going to say chunk id new 0 0 like that. And so we need to implement chunk id here. Simple chunk id and new just going to say x, which is I32, and y, which is I32. And it's going to return a chunk id. We're just going to say chunk id back to new x and y, like so. Okay, so then we need to say we need to implement world map. We're going to say fn get or gen, which is going to take in mute self and return an ID, which I guess is a reference to a chunk ID. So, and it's going to return a reference to a chunk data, and say if let fine, if let I forgot how it works. So it's like self dot height maps dot element dot something. Entry ID. Or insert. Okay, then we implement chunk data. Fn gen. Oh, I guess fn new, which is going to be noise, which is going to be a reference to something that impulse noise function and returns chunk data. Oh, it's a 2D. Now, am I able to say is that going to work? Okay, we need to change ID to just being ID. Okay. Well, I mean, that seems to work. Okay, so it needs to return F32 and dimensions 2. Okay. Current is F64. Okay. So we go over here, and instead of being noise get, so we generate the chunk. We say this is the chunk, and then so instead, nodes. Okay, so instead of being data times 3, instead we're going to say that we want chunk dot height at x and z. Okay. Mesh triangle list index. Okay. So that should do that, and then we should really come in here and say, so we want to say chunk data height map is going to be, yes, we need to say that new height equals chunk size times chunk size, and then we say for height. Okay, yes. I'm going to say for x y in 0 dot chunk size for x in 0 dot chunk size. We say heights y times chunk size plus x equals. Really feel like I should be swapping chunk size out for a U size and converting it back to an I32 where I need an I32, because it's getting a bit tedious converting it to a U size every time I need to do something. And then we say noise. Noise dot get. Yep. Okay. And then we get, and we say y as f32. I guess technically I could just do this. Y is f32. I guess times by 0.945. I don't know. And x. I guess technically it's x then y. X is 32 times by 0.9. Go 754 instead of 457. Okay. It's an end. Oh, it's actually F60 64. F32 is F64. Like so. Hmm. Oh, right, that's for the F64. And as F32. Okay. So we generate the noise, and then we fill it in, and then we return that. And then we just run this and make sure that this is all going to work, because it should all be the same, because I literally just pulled out the ability to generate chunks and then put it there and gone. Okay, so again, we still have a nice flat plane, a little bit wobbly. Okay. So next, we want to go we're going to say you are going to be able to generate a texture, fn texture, right, which is going to take in itself, and it's going to return an image. Oh, not a plugin, image. Okay, so we're going to say let mute image equals image new. Okay, so size. Okay. So it's going to be with chunk size, height, chunk size as U32. As U32, depth array is going to be 1, I think. Okay, texture dimension, that's 2D. Done. Okay, so let's just say let data, let you data equal a vec with capacity chunk size times chunk size times, is it 3 as U size? All right, then we don't want to do this. We just want to return that. All right, so we then give you data, and then we say format. So the format has to be wrong type of format, my friend. Texture format. Okay, texture format. Texture format is going to be is there no singular RGB? RGB. Ooh, 16 float. You in? You went RGB. So that makes it 4. and asset usage. Asset. What is that? Render asset usage. Render asset usage. Oh. Alright. So then we're going to say for y in 0 dot dot chunk size for x in 0 dot dot chunk size. We're just going to say height to color, which is going to take in a height, which is going to be F32, and we'll return U8 by 4, I guess. We just say U8 by 3. Say if height is less than 0.33, we're going to say 0. 255. If height is going to be 0 to 0 else 255 255 255 minus 200. If height less less than 0.9 else 2 divided no, not 350, 255 255 extreme speed. Okay, so we're gonna say dot extend from slice. So if we just make these all references, and then it's 2 we're gonna just add the a because it makes it easier. 2 and then you put 4, and then we say chunk data height to color self dot height at x y. Pass that in. Do that. You're supposed to be a reference. Next over. Right. Static. Okay. So the texture will then hopefully generate an image. Okay, so new images, which is going to be res mute assets image, and we're going to say okay. So we generate this. We push for the indices. Okay. This is each indice. Okay, so I'm gonna let mute UVs equal that. No. Okay. So we're gonna say this is UV push vector 2, which is going to be x, which is going to be 1 divided by chunk size, that is f32 times by x, that is f32. Okay, then we do the same thing over here, but with the z. We say z. Okay, then we push UVs, and then we come down here and we say mesh dot insert indices, insert attribute UV0 UVs. These UVs. We got this. And then so we insert the UVs, and then we say this. We say texture. Yeah, base color texture, which is going to be some images dot add chunk dot texture. We need a comma. Okay. And then when I say run, is it either going to work or it's not going to work? But I still have to end the stream because that is what the time we have. Hey. Okay. Well, there seems to be some kind of issue because we never get a value below 0.3, but it's something. See, below 0.3 it's anything below 0.3 should be blue, but there's nothing blue, which means we never roll a value below 0.3. We also never roll a value above 0.9 because that would be white. Anyway, that's all the time I have for the stream today. I'm actually amazed that I managed to get a generator like that going in literally just the one stream. But I guess maybe next time we'll either keep working on the generator or I think I've got an idea for something else I want to implement. Like a map. No, not a map. Like a dice image thing, so you can build things out of dice. It's some project that I have planned that I would like to build, like a visualizer, so I can map the thing out in the visualizer and then actually build it. So that might be next time. But thank you all for tuning in, and I'm just gonna see you next time.